Hi, my name is Steve Houston. Welcome to this channel. On this channel, we talk about mortgage protection and final expense, really all things financial services, annuities, IULs. We talk about the different IMOs, and some are good, some are bad. And we provide the facts, and we allow you to decide what's in your best interest going forward, as usual. This week, I'm going to talk about the in-home presentation and give you really an in-home presentation script outline. Right? I know it's unusual to see me dressed up like this, but I had some appointments today in a more of a wealthier area, and I always say when you're going out to your appointments, you want to dress at least their level, maybe even slightly above, so that explains the attire. Okay, step number one is the kitchen table. Getting your people to the kitchen table. I think it's a very good point. Some people talk to me and ask me all the time, you know, Steve, do you think I should do it at a restaurant? Do you think I should do it at Starbucks? Do you think I should do it, you know, at their work? I would say no to all of those, unless you absolutely do not have an option. This is a relationship business. It's an emotional decision, and you want them focused. No better place to do that than at the home. That's priority number one, in my opinion. Now, if you can't get them to do anything else, maybe it's a single woman or an elderly person that doesn't feel comfortable having you in their home, you know, you have to kind of make a judgment call there, because if they're not going to let you in the home, then you have to you know, compromise, I guess. Just understand you're putting yourself in a difficult situation, and it may not always work out to be a sale, right? But this step should really kind of set the tone for the rest of the appointment. So you are in control, you're friendly, hopefully, but you're also busy. And you have a schedule of full of other people to see in their neighborhood. It's always how you want to kind of present yourself. You don't want to always have, you know, it goes back to really setting the appointment. The company has me in your area between 6 and 8. I need about 30 minutes of your time, and I'll be seeing some other folks as well, so I may need a buffer on either side of my 30 minutes. It just goes to show you that, again, they're not the only ones interested in your product. So, again, that applies to the kitchen table. It applies to your in-home presentation. Take time to warm up. This is the number one thing I think that I see a lot in my agents is they get nervous, they get rattled, and they want to just get in there and get down to the numbers and you know, get down to the brass tacks, so to speak, and it's a bad thing to do. You know, you're comparing yourself. Look, if it was only about the rates, they can get rates on the internet, and most everybody else is going to sell that way. They're going to come in there and they're going to go over some options with them, give them the rates, and they're out the door in, you know, 15 to 30 minutes. Again, this is an emotional sale. I believe it's a relationship business, and I believe people buy people they like, know, and trust. So you've got to give yourself some time for that bonding part of the sales process, right? Because again, otherwise you're comparing yourself to everybody else that they can get rates from. And again, if somebody, you know, many times, and this is kind of a little more advanced conversation, but many times they're going to intentionally rattle you. You might have that type A individual that, you know, just, oh, come on, you know, give me the, you know, just get down to the brass tacks. Give me the rates. What's the rates going to be? And quite simply, I'll give you a way to handle that. Just step back a little bit, and say, hey, look, I need about 30 minutes to go through this. Are you looking for rates, or are you looking for coverage? Because if I don't, you know, take time to explain to you what these rates mean and what's included in these rates, you're not going to have any clue what you're purchasing or what you may be purchasing. So I need to go through the rates and explain to you what's included for this price. If they're not willing to give you that time, pack it up and leave. That's my opinion, right? So, you know, in front of you on the table, you know, you want to have the lead sheet. If you're working the leads, so in front of you, you also want to have the lead sheet. You want to have the lead sheet in front of you, and also the worksheet that you have your rates on, providing you pre-qualify these folks before you get in the home, and I think you should. And then you ought to have the applications. Look, even if you're doing e-apps, you ought to have applications. I can tell you the number of agents that I have on my team that put themselves in that situation, love the electronics, love to do the e-apps, and they get into a home that has no Wi-Fi connection. So you ought to have a trunk full of apps for your number 1, 2, 3, 4 carriers and their products, right? So that if you don't have Wi-Fi connection, for whatever reason you can't do it on an e-app, you can go out to the car and get them. In this particular case, they had to drive 45 minutes into Kinko's, print them off, drive 45 minutes back, and then they missed their next appointment. So you can't rely totally on technology. All right, so step number 2 is verify and gather the needed information. Again, begin verifying the info that's on your lead sheet. I had a lead sheet here somewhere I was going to show you. But verify the information that's on the lead sheet. Again, that puts you back in control of the conversation. I've always been taught in sales that the person asking the questions is the person that's in charge. So you want to be asking the questions and set that tone in the meeting, right? So step number 2 would be gather the information and verify, right? Very simple step, shouldn't take you a whole lot of time, but that's part of your bonding, right? You can use that to your advantage. I sometimes ask them how long they've been in the area, do they plan on staying in the home a little while, long while, or they never plan on leaving. I look around for things I can bond with. This is when you can do that, right? Kind of weave that gathering information worksheet is when you're doing that bonding ceremony, right? The number 3 is resurrect the emotion. Resurrect, I don't think that's right. Resurrect. Remember, life insurance, mortgage protection insurance, final expense, whatever you're selling is an emotional decision. Here's a tip for you. People don't buy life insurance. They buy what life insurance does, right? You can go out in a corner, you probably heard me say this before, and ask 1,000 people if they want to buy life insurance. And if you don't get stoned first, you might find a couple. Right, but if you stop and say, hey, Joe, if you see a family walking down the sidewalk and you stop and say, hey, let me ask you a question, Joe. If you were to die of a heart attack or a car wreck tonight or tomorrow, would you want your family to be homeless and lose their home, or would you want that home to be protected so that their life is secure, right? So that's the point, is most men would tell you, now I've had a couple that wouldn't tell you or wouldn't admit to it, say, yes, absolutely, I'd want to make sure they're taken care of and that they keep the home and they're not homeless and not having to move in with their relatives. Right, so they're buying what life insurance does, not what life insurance is, right? Because, again, nobody wants to buy life insurance, right? This is a good time, again, to slide the lead sheet right in front of that couple. I mean, this is my number 1 deal in the home. The first thing I do when I sit down, put my paperwork out on the table, is I say, okay, Jack and Jill, their names aren't Jack and Jill, but I'm using that as an example. I'm going to slide it across on the table, and I'm going to say, hey, listen, Jack and Jill, who filled this form out? And I kind of do it in a little bit of a chuckling manner, make it kind of fun. And, I'd say 9 times out of 10, it's the spouse. The spouse filled it out. Why? Usually the one that's not feels most in jeopardy, and I want that person to say, I filled it out. And then I'm going to ask her again, I'm going to kind of remind them as to get them kind of back to the point that they made that emotional decision to fill that form out. I'm going to ask them, why did you fill this form out, Jill or Joe, whichever one it is? Right? And I want the other person in that situation to hear their fears, because again, it's that fear of loss, sense of urgency. Okay, so that's what kind of sets the whole tone of the meeting, because maybe they never admitted that to each other before. And typically speaking, the men don't want to hear it anyway, because they feel like they have it all taken care of, and they're the last the people in the world that really want life insurance. Generally speaking, there are exceptions, right? All right, so step number 4 is explain your role and purpose. All right, so we're going to talk about explain your role and purpose in the home. I think that's important. Again, set the tone of the meeting.